Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, and this is the International Outreach Think Tank meeting. And we're going to start off. Let me share my screen. And we'll go ahead and read the Bivens Declaration. Does anybody want to read this? Can I get a volunteer? Anybody?
I'll volunteer.
Thank you, Bonnie. Go for it. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay.
That's okay.
This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in this public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance in today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, township agencies present? Is there any response to the Bevins decision for this first time? Is there a response for a second time? Is there a response for a third time and final time? Anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here must fully disclose their presence and purpose now, or leave the premises, or this conference call. If they subsequently show up as federal witnesses, they are discredited for failure to disclose. Are you now or have you ever received money or personal support of any kind from the intelligence community? Okay, upon no response to this notice of the Bevins decision, this meeting shall now proceed.
Awesome. Thank you. And Bonnie, I just realized that you're the Bonnie that I met in Massachusetts, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if you guys would just take a moment here, I'm going to set us off in a prayer. Dear Almighty Creator, thank you for gathering us together here tonight. We seek your blessings upon our discussions tonight. Grant us the wisdom to engage in meaningful conversations that lead to productive outcomes. May our words be filled with grace and our ideas be fruitful. In Yeshua's name we pray this, and so be it. Okay. All right. So first thing on our agenda tonight, I'm just going to go over some old business. I'd love to be able to get all of our state assemblies on the American State Assemblies podcast. And this is, oh, we got a hot mic here. This podcast is really to showcase all of our state assemblies. And I'd love to really get more of our assemblies on the schedule. I will be interviewing Michigan, but right now we have about 25, I guess half of our states represented. So I'd love to get all of them represented. And I know that a lot of people are shy and maybe they don't like being in front of the camera. But even if you have one brave soul in your assembly, whether it be your ombudsman or your marshal at arms or a coordinator or a chairman or even a committee chair, anybody really that has the courage to come on and represent your assembly. I usually give out the questions in advance so that there's nobody's being blindsided by anything. But it's really a great opportunity to have the world get to meet you and your assembly, and and just kind of get you on the world platform. So everybody has my email address. I'll put it in the chat again so that if you want to pass this along to your assembly and you want to chat about it with the people in your assembly, you can reach me and contact me, and we'll schedule you. The the podcast is actually on the BitChute. I have it on BitChute. And I also have it on YouTube. Not all of the interviews are on YouTube because they've censored one or two of my interviews, but most of them are up there. And I'll always attempt to put them up on both YouTube. BitChute is never a problem, but that's where you can find us. And anyway, that's all I have to say about the podcast, is unless somebody has any questions. Okay. All right. I'm going to go on with new business. Again, I think that, Anna is going to be busy for quite some time. And so I'm going to take a wild guess that we're probably going to have to um, uh, just take a bite out of this whole project and probably get her on the Thursday night, training call, and maybe ask her a few questions. And then maybe week by week, we might be able to have all the questions answered. But anyway, I'm going to let Louise go over the project. I'm going to hand it over to Louise. Louise, I do have the project up if you want me to share my screen or if you want to just share your screen, but I actually have a few suggestions. So, once we get the project up or whatever it is that you want to share or go over. But in any case, I do have it on my computer if you wanted me to share mine. You just let me know.
Thank you, Tammy. Let me share my screen. I'm going to do some updates here.
Okay.
I put these in the chat there. So these are my notes. And I put the questions for Anna that we had planned for today. I actually rewrote them to restructure them a little bit because I sent her these questions to make them more direct so she can just answer them and send them back to me before this meeting happened. So that's why it looks a little different from the other questions that I sent out. I thought that would be helpful to get her to just answer specific things. So we'll know yes, no, yes, no. Oh, I suggest this, to make it a little quicker for her, but guess she wasn't able to get to those. But I agree with Tammy because that's what I was thinking, Tammy. On tomorrow, we could ask Anna, can we have some time during the coordinator training call to ask these questions to get through all the planning aspects so we can get launched? That's the next best thing I see at this point. I agree with you. Okay, so the updates, the video voiceover, Margaret was working on that. She did do the voiceover. It's kind of not syncing with the PowerPoint. So I asked for just a read through, and she says, well, that's the best. That's what she did really, was a read through. So I'm gonna I got a question that maybe you all can I said take a vote. My thought was, maybe I still like the idea of people reading the international the international video on the landing page. For those who don't know, I'm talking about this video here. I still like the idea of people reading it and hearing themselves read it compared to having a voiceover. So my question and I'm asking for a vote on is, what do you think about leaving it as is with no voiceover, but putting an audio read through underneath it? Put your vote in the chat. Yes or no? Which one you think would be better, to voiceover on the video or put a read through voiceover link on the bottom underneath the video and keep it no voiceover? Yes, Tammy.
I think it probably would be good if we got to see both versions before we could actually give our opinion on that.
I'm just thinking, thinking psychologically now, just really. people reading themselves, people listening to them, their own voices reading it, as opposed to people listening to somebody else's voices reading it, who have, you know, they have different energies, different inflections and things like that, and will impress certain things in the mind. So that's what I was thinking of, psychologically speaking.
Could you put like background music to this? I mean, I just don't know how it would go outside of that. I don't know, maybe somebody else has a
This is
suggestion.
Dan. This is Dan on North Carolina. Hi, Tammy. How are you doing? May I, real fast?
Yeah, hey Dan, how are you?
Good, good. I'm more with what she's saying about making people read. Of course, this is one of the things we're fighting. You know, as most people won't pick up the book and sort of get to it. You know, and even back to one of the books that Anna suggests, "The End of All Evil." Page 79, first paragraph is just like schooling, education, and knowledge are not the same thing. One is not a natural result of the other. People grow in knowledge when they learn truths. Teaching and schooling are meaningless when students do not seek wisdom. They are likewise meaningless when that which is being taught is not wisdom. In order to learn, people must thirst for knowledge. Force and compulsion cannot accomplish this. So, you know, due to that scripture and what I think is, I agree that if they don't have time to read it, unless they're hearing, you know, unless they're visually impaired, then, you know, they're not going to accept it anyways. So I don't need an example myself. I agree with what she was saying, and I yield.
This is Phil Dablowski out of on New Jersey. May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
Okay. I think it might not be a bad idea to have a voiceover read version when looking at the average. I mean, there's a lot of folks obviously that are doing their own research and what have you, and have the ability to read at a good pace. But there's some folks that struggle with reading, and it might not be a bad idea to have it, if not during the main aspect of it, but to have a version that we can send someone that may struggle with reading or might have a minor learning disability.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Do you yield?
I do yield. I hit my mute before I got my yield in. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Jen on Kentucky, go ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm quite following what you guys are discussing exactly. I mean, I understand we have the Rumble channel where we have the voiceover and Anna's articles are read, but I'm also hearing Luis talk about, you know, the inflection in the voice. And then what popped into my mind was Audible and how there you have the books that are read to you, but it's not voiceover. You hear inflection in the voice. You hear it different than a robot reading to you. And I'm wondering if, is that where you're going? Are you looking for someone to read Anna's articles instead of them being on voiceover? I'm just trying to get clarification. I yield.
So on this first phase of the project, there is a introduction. It's actually this that you're seeing on the screen right now. It says International Public Notice, and it goes through a whole series of information. And so it's basically like a slideshow, but without any voiceover or without any music behind it. And so I guess what we're trying to determine is if we keep it without a voiceover and allow the people to read it for themselves, or we have a voiceover. I guess that's what she's looking to get feedback on. Does that make sense, Jen?
Yes, it does. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we have three options. And I have it playing so you can read as you go, as you can see. The three options is let it play like this and allow the people to read it on their own. And underneath the video, put the audio bar, an audio bar that has the read through of it, like Audible. Just the read through, like a read through book, like you're reading through a book. just the audio version underneath it. That's one way. The second way is to put a voiceover reading the PowerPoint as it's going. Okay, I guess there's only two ways I'm really thinking about is the voiceover actually embedded in the PowerPoint and you're reading and it's going with the words, or no words at all and put the audible read through at the bottom, an MP3, basically an MP3 at the bottom of the video. Those two options. So yeah, I was asking for a vote on that. So if y'all don't mind, put your vote in the chat and I will see what the majority of people is saying. So my reasoning for coming up with that idea was I'm still thinking about people reading it in their own voices, having more impact to them than somebody reading it to them as having a voiceover with their own emphasis on the words. I don't know. I don't study this. So it was just something that I was thinking of. I don't know. I'm not sure if I don't know if I'm correct in that thought as far as science go. Okay. The newsletter was published. It will remain at this link here. So if there's any updates or any additions, any mistakes or anything happened, is brought to my attention, I will change it. And this link will show, and I will update the edited version, and it will show the new version, but it will always just be at this link, the updated version. And some people was asking if Anna had took it down because she was editing it or anything like that, or told me anything about taking it down. The answer is no. She didn't tell me anything about taking it down. She did read it, and she gave me one edit, and that was right here. Jim, ancestor splashed ashore in 1608, not 1630, whatever that was. That's the only edit she gave me. So I know she read it. And no, she didn't say anything about don't publish it or anything like that. But this is a newsletter from the International Think Tank, which means this is not something that we would need approval for her to publish. This is our ideas, our experiences, our opinions. We don't need, it's not something official that's coming from the Federation. And someone had that concern and asked me, so I was, answering that too.
Well, may I?
Yeah.
Well, it's no different than, I guess, Terra Australis has put out their newsletter, right?
Yeah, they have.
Right. And, I don't know, it's like in a similar format, right?
Yeah.
Meaning, that it's coming from the people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, I yield.
Now I did talk to Robert, who had indicated that he might be interested in taking over the editing and the publishing of it. I asked him today if I can announce you're taking it over. He says, no, I'm not sure still. I may be able to help, but I don't know if I could commit to it. So if anybody out there who wants to step in to help with the editing or publishing, Robert is willing to help. I will help some more if I need to get the next version published. When would I expect the next version to be published? I think that would really be based on whoever it is that is volunteering to help. I don't like telling people, well, I can't tell people what to do anyway. So you tell me what schedule you want to be on. We want it to be published every 3 months. So whenever it starts, you're committing to us that you're going to take on the task for every 3 months, because that is what the idea is. So let me know, email me, put your name in the chat. Yes, Tammy?
Is it possible maybe to maybe start with a or I don't know what that would be, biannual, right? Like twice a year, maybe every 6 months so that it's not so overwhelming. You know, I see a lot of people are hesitant to volunteer for these things, I think because in each of our respective states, we have a lot of responsibilities already. And so it's hard to commit to something outside of it. Um, and so if people are willing to step up and help in a little bit and they know it's, just to get it up and off the ground, maybe you start because the first one went out, it was February, right?
Right.
Yeah, the end of February. So, maybe in 6 months, that would give people enough time to gather more, enough material to put into a newsletter, right? It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
I yield.
That's yep. Anybody want to do 6 months? Raise your hand. Okay. So yeah, it's really based on who wants to volunteer to do it. It's your time. So you tell us what you want to commit with your time. I want to just remind everybody, as far as the declaration go, we are getting poised to get launched. So go ahead, you can send your assembly members to this website page and read it and show your support and by filling out the John Hancock there and downloading the declaration and giving that a read. If you have any suggestions for the declaration, you can tell me that too. At this point, I can change anything. After we launch, we will probably not be changing much of anything unless it's just a mistake that needs to be changed. A significant mistake, not like a typo. Okay. All right, so updates on per phases. So I said that I was going to put together training modules for the assemblies for the launch, and I did get that done a couple weeks ago. Now, Tammy did send out a link to everybody, but if you didn't get it and you're on the call, here is the link. It's in the notes there. And what these training modules cover is from the overview of the project all the way to the initial launch of the project. That's what these 4 modules cover. Once we get Anna's ear and go through some of those questions, I will be able to start on module 5, which are the county tours and the teeth version, the strategy. I'll be able to start on module 5 and on however many modules it takes for me to finish off the rest of the Resurgence project phases 1, 1A, and 2. That's what the training modules are going to be covering. So far we got phase 1, because 1A and 2 is the same thing. It's really the county tour. So that module 1 through 4 is covering phase 1. Phase 3, we're actually starting on phase 3. Here is a link here. And this is what I was referring to before the call, before we started the recording. If you haven't watched it already, watch this Strategy Task Force Session 10, which we did Sunday. It goes over phase 3 aspects where you see here's phase 3, all 5 tiers of phase 3. We started the Strategy Task Force already, but that strategy session 10 goes over Trump capitulation negotiations and diplomatic immunity status. Those 2 things. And those 2 things are launched by the PKTF Directorate. Me, Joe, Kathy, and Boyd. Boyd then jumped out the starting block. So what I mean is, he has sent out a letter already to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He's ready. He is really adamant and passionate about the fact that, well, what they're doing to Cheryl, if anybody don't know, Boyd is Boyd here? Okay. If one of our state nationals, Cheryl, has been tortured along with being called a sovereign citizen and still sitting in jail. And so Boyd's not having it. That's why he jumped out the starting block. So he sent out this letter to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and made some demands. So what we're going to do is wait a couple of weeks to see if we get a response from Kash Patel, who is the director, I guess, of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And after those 2 weeks, I'm proposing that we move ahead with sending out the letter to the Department of State and the Department of Justice. And Strategy Task Force Session 10 will give you the details on how that is being proposed and developed. So that's what I was going to say about that, Tammy.
Well, Luis, may I hear for a second?
Mhm.
So in fully reviewing all the phases of the project, and I think everybody will agree that the project is really well laid out. There's a lot of details to each of the phases. But if I'm to look at where our state assemblies are currently at the moment, most of our state assemblies do not have elected county sheriffs. And so this phase 3 seems a bit premature. It almost seems like this phase 3 should be actually one of the last phases. That phase 4 and 5, which is the education aspect, right, where we have our our TV and all the information for people to continue to learn and educate. That mostly, in my opinion, seems like that would make more sense to go before phase 3. Phase 3 would be more of the last phase, because as we are educating the people and we're getting them on board, it's hard enough to get people to, first of all, wrap their head around what's happened. That's number one. And then you've got them going through the grieving phases, right? Which is denial, anger, sadness, and then eventually they get to acceptance and then action. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are, having such a hard time getting people on board, and then once they're educated and they've finally went through the 5 stages of grievance, now you have to overcome indoctrination, because we've all been indoctrinated that the only job we have is to show up at an election poll and vote for a bureaucrat, where we give away our proxy for them to, take the reins and be in full control. And so now we're tasked with trying to get people activated and getting them used to being a part of their government and actually being people that can make choices, that can read things thoroughly, understand things thoroughly, and then make good decisions and act upon it. Not just come to a meeting and give their opinion on something, but actually be active in their assembly and doing something in their assembly. That's one of the hardest things I think that every single one of our assemblies is facing. And then on top of it all, you have people that have full-time jobs and a lot of other commitments. And so like, the guy that you're trying to get to help you with editing the newspaper, right? He's apprehensive to commit to something because he's probably already overcommitted. And so it's very tough for people to commit to anything more than they've already done, because people people are overextended as it is. And so we have a lot of challenges that we're facing. And in my opinion, the phase 3, because we're needing county sheriffs, right? And for that phase 3. So in my humblest opinion and more practical and realistic opinion, I think that phase should probably be the last phase. I think the county tours are great because now you're traveling your state and trying to get people, that's the other thing is that people don't feel confident enough in the knowledge to be able to articulate it to people and to represent their government. And so now you're faced with a few people in your assembly that are confident, competent, and comfortable to speak in front of people and give them the information. So, and I do think that the phase 1 and 2 is a great idea. I think that the 4 and 5 should come before phase 3. I think phase 3 should be the last. I don't know. Does anybody else feel the same or have an opinion on that?
May I?
Yes, go
It's
ahead, Gwen.
Gwen on Canada. So yeah, I would agree. That would be helpful for us. The other thing that we looked at in reviewing the package is that for us to go out on tour, we have winter. And so it's easier for us to do this in more nice weather where we can have picnics in the park and have more facilities open to us rather than having to rent a hall or try and find something more specific rather than spontaneous, like, hey, let's cook some pancakes, breakfast, and, do whatever. So that's another consideration we had as well. So yeah, I think doing the sheriff's last, our funding will come through. We have people that are building confidence. They're sort of knowing now what to say, learning the process, not sort of thinking that you have to be like a wrestler to get out there and wrestle people, but instead to act in honor, to just shake their hand, to be non-threatening. And yeah, people are going to not understand. So that's part of the process and grow from there. So I yield.
Thank you, Gwen. Anybody else?
Let me throw this perspective out then, because this is my perspective for phase 3. Imagine how easier it would be for the state assemblies if we got a Supreme Court's ruling that says sovereign citizen it does not address American state nationals, and American state nationals are actually a legitimate citizenry that should be respected and allowed their constitutional rights from the U.S. Supreme Court. I say that would make the Assembly's job that much easier if we could get that done. But that can only get done with us working with those people at the top. And I'm just throwing that out there in that perspective because that's something that the directorate was talking about. The directorate is dealing with the people at the top, Trump, the Department of Justice, Department of State, to get recognition of the Federation of States. The problem that assemblies and nationals and everybody on the ground have is we're not recognized. So at the top, the directorate is trying to achieve that recognition and that relationship of employer to employee. That makes the job of the assemblies much easier. Now, the assemblies are in a catch-22, where Tammy is pointing out people just not educated, people not ready. Our assemblies don't have enough people. We're overworked. Well, the catch-22 is, one, you got to get more people into the assemblies. So how do you do that? By doing the outreach. The phase 1 and 2 and phase 3 are not contingent upon each other. We can do phase 3 without the assemblies doing phase 1 and 2. That's how it's set up. So the directorate got to do their job or do their role, fill in their role to protect all the 50 states while you all are over here, we are over here, getting ourselves ready. Now in phase 1 and 2, phase 1, 1A and 2, means you start when you're ready. And all the assemblies are at different starting points. So I'm trying to get it all laid out so that when your assembly is ready to start this one, it's all laid out. When this assembly is ready to start this one, it's all laid out. But in the background, the directorate is still working on those people at the top, trying to get overall recognition, which would make your jobs much more easier when you're outreaching to those people on the ground. That's the perspective of it.
Could you clarify, what do you mean by a directorate?
The directorate for the PKTF is 4 people. That's the executive director, which is Joe, the executive secretary, which is Boyd, the assistant director, which is Kathy, and the affiliate director, which is me.
And the directorate's job, so you guys are already in talks with the people at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, I think that that's more of the, that's not an assembly.
No, it's
That-
not an assembly position. It's not assembly's role. Remember at the beginning, when I brought the idea to the international think tank, I came up with phase 3, where security capital and all that. And I thought, well, we need sheriffs and all that, right? And you see security capital is here on number 4. It used to be up near the top, but now it's down below underneath the other 2 things. But the idea when I came up with phase 3 altogether was I thought that I needed permission to go to the Federation to do such a thing, such as talking to the people at the top and getting a meeting with Trump and all that kind of stuff. So that's how phase 3 came into, that's how I got into the PKTF, because I took that idea to them. This part is not the part for the assemblies.
Okay, well, I think in your project document that we all got, in phase 3, it does say that you need your county sheriffs. And I think when you're going to do your county tours or something to that effect, that you were, so has that changed? Maybe I'm misunderstanding it now.
So that didn't change, and that concern did come up, and that's why phase 2 and phase 1A are for those who don't have elected sheriffs. Well, phase 1A, if you don't have an elected sheriff or you don't have that many members, you just went out and did your outreach. That's what phase 1A is about, just outreach. But depending on the makeup of your assembly, if you have a county sheriff, if you have a PKTF liaison, you can add that element to your phase 2, because phase 2 includes security capital. If you don't have a county sheriff, then you're probably not doing phase 2. You're probably just going to do phase 1A. So that's how I took into account those people, those assemblies who said, well, I don't have that many people, or we don't have a county sheriff. So you have to, like I say, fit in where you fit in. Those are the different phases, why I created the different phases for different situations that the assemblies find themselves in.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my question to you is, because outreach is is basically you are educating, the education and outreach go hand in hand. And so I'm almost curious as to why phases 4 and 5 aren't brought up, because those would be instrumental when you are doing outreach and you have some resources to share with people. This phase 4 and 5 would be really helpful, because now you have something more concrete that you can send people to get their information, and it could be a number of resources, right?
Yeah.
So that's just something that I think it would be helpful, because like I said, phase 3 may not be something that, or the part, wherever that is, if it's part 2, phase 2, where it involves your county sheriff, you know, a lot of our assemblies are not there yet. And
Mhm.
so, and like I said, the education, the outreach and the education really go hand in hand. And so if we could incorporate those phases 4 and 5, I think that it would be a lot helpful.
So two things, good questions, good feedback, Tammy. We can think through this. So, on now the outreach part and the education, the reason let me go back to the reason this website is developed the way that it is, so that it is because while you're out there bringing people and inviting people to your assemblies, the education starts here. That's why I developed it like this. So it has remember the brochures we have for education, and it has all this in there, right, for education. Now even the home video itself, the International Public Notice itself is for education. This is the first things that the people will see when the launch starts, because the launch starts with that International Public Notice. This is the notice. So education starts at the beginning when it launches, right? And
Yeah,
then
but I think, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Luis, but I think what, I just want to clarify. Um, I think what we're needing is multiple resources. So instead of coming to a website and getting information just straight from a website, if you go up to the top of your website there, and you go to news and TV, right? Now you've got, you've got this newsletter, you have a docu-series, you've got all sorts of other, truthers and information. This is something I think that it's like a one-stop shop, right? Where people can come and it's almost like, Michelle's Mop and Bucket channel, where she's been putting everybody's, all the podcasts and the webinars and this, up there. It's kind of, making it easier for people to find the information. I like that idea, and I like having this where people can stop and kind of get as many resources as possible. And so that to me seems to be more valuable when we are doing our outreach, because it's going to bring more credibility and just more people, and people from all walks of life, not just people that have corrected their status through Anna von Reitz, right? So I think that's that would be helpful. And I yield. I see Annette has her hand up. Go ahead, Annette. Annette?
I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out how to unmute. My apologies. Thank you for going into such great detail, and all of it is so educational for us. We're on a county that in Florida that is very organized, and we have a sheriff, and we have a marshal at arms, and we have pretty much waiting for our reply to find out if we're, all seated. So are we being held back by the other counties that are not as organized, or are we able to move forward? Like, I'm already in the process of working as a liaison to learn how to do that for the PKTF. So are we held back, or and the reason I'm asking that is because we have already at least 6 other sheriffs that would be happy to come on if they were actually getting a paycheck. They are very good, but they just can't support their families in it at this time without money.
so
And I don't know, maybe Luis would want to answer that, but I don't think that you would be held back. Luis, do you have any more insights to that?
yeah, so I think well, just what I said, the project is built so that wherever you are in your assembly, you start at that level. So if you have the sheriff in the county the PK-TIF liaison, you know that you're ready to do phases 1 and 2. If you don't have that, then you know that you're probably ready to just do phase 1A. So you look at the different phases to see what your capacity of your assembly can actually work out. Now, we're all held back right now until Anna says launch. So,
Okay.
but other than that element, no particular county or a state is held back at all. And like I said, you just fit in where you fit in. And that's why it was developed that way.
Well, I
Everybody-
appreciate that. It looks like it's stage 2 for us. And
Okay.
and we, oh my gosh, you ladies make this so much easier. Thank you so much. My heart goes out to you guys and the time you're putting into this. We couldn't do this without your insight, and I say that sincerely. So we're at a 2. So you said yes, we can plan on a go ahead, and as soon as Anna gives us the green light, which she was saying the other day might be within 2 weeks. Or
We'll
my
see. We'll talk to her
misunderstanding
tomorrow,
that?
right, Tammy? We're gonna talk to her tomorrow.
Excellent.
I'm gonna have a long list of questions.
You're probably getting that feedback though from a lot, right? If I'm self-employed, so I can dedicate a lot of hours. But there's a lot of people that had to go back to work. You know, they were planning a year ago or 2 years ago and they just had to go back to work, and I'm so sad because we lost some really great help that were putting all this together. We have a great volunteer group, but it still is a lot of work, as you both know. So, you know, if we had the financial side of things, it would be such a thrust forward.
Yeah. So let me go back to the feedback that Tammy is on about the phases 4 and 5. Again, it's a catch-22, Tammy. You know what it would take to do phases 4 and 5? We need people. Here, let me go back here. Let me go back. Remember my volunteer needed list.
I'm sorry, I meant to say, it seems to be a common theme.
You see that list right there, Tammy? That's our volunteer needed list.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you all remember what phases 4 and 5 was, it's a nesting of like 10 websites, 9 to 10, okay? Just starting with the newsletter was the first part of phases 4 and 5, just starting our news. So we're in a catch-22 in starting to push 4 and 5 up. We need the people to do 4 and 5. The way I designed this, I'm designing this where no phase will hold up the other phase. If we got the people to do the phase, just start it where it is, because we're not going to, 4 and 5 is just not going to be developed overnight. So we're starting a little bit at a time. The newsletter was the first thing. And then we got the new news and TV part on the screen here that we have. You know, that's the start of it. Remember, I got up there at the top. I said it's the start of it. So we just got to get started and start building on 4 and 5, even while we're waiting for Anna to give us the go ahead on phase 1 to go. I am working on 4 and 5 to build the website here. Let me continue my notes then. So I already mentioned that we need our news reporting, somebody from your assembly, whether you're a county assembly or state assembly, need to be an identified person who reports the news. Meaning, take some pictures of what's going on in the neighborhood and interview maybe your assembly member who just got a win or something. And you can send it. Joe has the blog spot. He can syndicate any news article there and type it up. Have it ready for the people who interested, who wants to do a newsletter. Submit that piece of news to the newsletter so it can be printed. So that's how we get started with phases 4 and 5. So
okay, without interrupting, could you put that in the chat, how to do that? Because we actually do have that, and we've been just putting it on our Telegram.
Put in the chat how to do what
How to
exactly?
contact whoever it is that
Oh.
we need to send this,
Oh,
these
just send it to
articles
me.
to.
Send it to me.
Oh, okay. I can do
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Which my
Okay.
information is always at the bottom down here, all my little notes.
Spectacular, spectacular.
Okay.
Okay, and then I have one more last question before I yield. And again, ladies, my hat's off to you. I don't even know when you have time to sleep. But anyways, okay. So we were asked to start getting a constitution together on our counties.
Mm.
That's what I was asking. So I'm going back to the old 1812, trying to find stuff before we got infiltrated and come up with our group are getting together on Sunday again, and there's like 40 of us, and we're trying to hash out, dear God, how to things that we want to achieve on our county, and how we want the de facto to respect us and stuff without them like going ape on us. um, is this something that you ladies, whoever is able to, are able to help us with, or is this something that we just create ourselves?
That's beyond our when you talk about constitutions, the agreements, you're supposed to have a international business pillar to talk about that on your
Yes,
county.
we do.
And then your communication line from there is to your state. So you all would have to figure that part out.
Oh, spectacular. I didn't know that. I will get a hold of Ralph about that. Thank you so much. And I yield.
Okay, so more on 4 and 5 to wrap it up for what I have here, Tammy. The last part here is the website properties. Like I said, I'm starting on 4 and 5, even though I'm just moving along, getting everything ready. So, because everything is not going to happen at the same time. I'm just getting everything ready because we have to take little steps and build and build and build. And that's what's been happening since we started in March or April, whenever that was. So the last thing here is the web properties. If you all remember from the execution overview, there's a nest of 9 websites that'll come together. The first part of it is building the American government website. We talked about .land and all that being the URL, part of the URL. Well, the other project, other part or connection to that was the town hall forum project, the 24-hour phone conference, and then the forum, the online forum where you can come ask your questions, and we'll build our government library and stuff there. So all those things are being worked on in the background. I do have a website properties task team who's working on this. And anybody out there who's software engineers, system engineers, graphic artists, videographers, them types of people, if you're interested in volunteering, give me a call or email me. But I did have a volunteer to come forward, and they actually said yes, who's a systems engineer. Among other talents that he has, he's volunteered to manage this whole 9 network project of websites to put together. So we're going to be starting on that here soon, of figuring out where we're going to start with first. And then I had another volunteer who called me, and they want to build a platform where nationals can upload videos about your experiences of what you're having with the de facto and any wins that you're having, any challenges that you're having, to have like a video library platform for nationals to have to do. So that's another volunteer that came forth last week. So we are starting on this 4 and 5 already, little at a time.
I love it, Louise. Thank you for that update.
I yield, Tammy. I think that's all I have.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions about the project, the phases, any suggestions? I know there's some stuff in the chat about the rearranging of the phases. Some people agree, some people think that it's best to keep it as it is. Somebody says, so we create a Rumble account and just start reporting on news, then have a link to our home site. I guess that's a suggestion. So Darren says, as best as I can tell, county assemblies are on the soil and do not do commerce. Any contracts with legacy systems would have to be done by the state assembly, question mark. Yeah, I think that's correct. What is, I'm trying to think, what is the purpose of the county? They do have a business pillar, correct? It's just not, it's not international, right? It's just within their county, correct?
Well, they would need one to do
It's
business
in,
with the county next door.
sorry, it's international. Anna told me that on last Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right, yeah, I think the state business assembly is international and global. And from my understanding, it's because so that foreign governments can't come into your counties. That's the way I understood it. Annette, go ahead.
Thank you. So I did ask her that, and it is on the Thursday night. So she said each county is considered in itself as like its own country kind of thing, and that we are going to be needing an international because we have to do business with other counties. And then you're correct. The state itself also needs a pillar because they're going to be doing business with other states and then outside of their state, like outside of the country. That's what it was explained to me, and I, I'm just passing it on.
Thank you, Annette. And again, I think from if we're going to talk about the correct verbiage, and this is something for us to really get unschool ourselves, right? And then train ourselves in the correct way to say it. But county to county, I guess, would be nationwide, right? Going from nation to nation. And then international would be going from state to state, right? Am I correct here or am I off base?
Well, look, yeah, nation to nation would be county to county, and state to state would be, well, we have nation states with a lowercase n and nation states with a capital N.
Right, and one that's the soil and one that's the
Mhm.
land, yeah.
So
Yeah,
my
tax-
comprehension was that soil jurisdiction does trade. So you would have trade between counties. And in reality, it's between men and women.
Right.
The county itself doesn't do anything. It's always between men and women. So yeah, it took me a long time to start focusing on jurisdictions because as far as I'm concerned, it's all shit made up and eventually we'll get rid of it anyway. It's clearly become important in the interim. But yeah, so my comprehension has always been that it's the international assemblies, which is the state assemblies, because they're on the land and soil. They would be the ones that were doing any commercial agreements with the legacy system service providers. And the county, so the way we've been working on it here on Terra Australis is that the county assembly only deals with men and women. So they will walk into a chemist and say it's the people's will, because it's been voted on at the General Assembly, that you stop injecting poisons into people. And they will talk to the man or woman who's causing the harm. They won't bother going to the corporation and saying you need to stop doing this. It's, hey, you're a man, you're causing harm, you're going to get dragged into a court if you continue to cause harm.
Right.
But yeah, clearly there's lots of complexities around all of this that I'm not aware of too. So.
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing we get to learn together, right?
For sure. Okay.
I try to encourage my people in my assembly anyway, is that there is no stupid question because we were all left in the dark for so long. So it's better to ask the question and feel, stupid than to not ask the question and continue in your ignorance, right? So I have a question. Well, going on, if it's okay, if we can go on, The next thing on the agenda that I had is that I wanted to see if anybody wanted to share how they were tracking, if you are at all tracking your conversion rates, because it's one thing to do outreach, and then it's another to see what your outreach efforts, how are people coming to your assembly? Does anybody have any system that they're using, any, process that they'd want to share? Anybody? Don't be shy.
I can talk about what we're doing here again.
Go ahead, Darren, and then we have Annette. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Annette's hand up. Apologies, Annette. So there's a couple of different strategies, but as you're aware, we did a tour of the country middle of last year, and Ben on Victoria has picked that up for Victoria, and they've actually been doing a combination of tours around Victoria, so having meetings in different towns and that sort of thing, and bringing people in. But he's also been invited to speak at, I can't remember the name of it now, but there's a movement. Oh, it's called the 832 movement, actually, John 832. But it's, yeah, where a whole heap of different freedom groups come together and people do presentations and that sort of thing. And he's been invited to, I think, 3 of those now, where he goes and speaks and gets access to people in other groups. And that's been quite successful for us on Victoria in terms of outreach.
And now, after you've done your outreach and you're meeting people, do you have a process as far as how you're tracking them coming into your assembly and actually following through with the status correction? Have you been keeping track of that?
No.
Yeah.
No, we have a feel for what's happening, but yeah, certainly no real metrics.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Do you yield?
I yield.
All right, Annette, go ahead.
Thank you. So we have really good success rate. Sadly, it's not all on our county, but we're getting about 50 new members a month because of word of mouth, mailings. We have a Telegram weekly meeting that is very successful. So our own group is like 20 to 30 weekly, but then it goes out in emails, and we have up to 50 other men and women, clicking onto that. And then we don't know how many else on Telegram, but the word of mouth, we have other counties that come visit. We are so lucky that we have a donated brick and mortar office. And we also, I have opened up my home to, Sunday barbecue things for members on specific days. And we've had sometimes 2, 3 other counties come. And so they take the word out and off they go. But like, jeepers, almost every day we have someone from either our county or other counties coming and wanting us to help them do their paperwork and ask how they can get involved in any level or any participation, especially the CSPOA and the PKTF, as well as doing their paperwork. So it's pretty extraordinary when you offer a brick and mortar situation that people just feel it's real, and they feel there's other ones just like them, that they're not crazy, and that they can come and get answers. Some of them don't get papered up, and that's their choice, but we're here to answer those, and that seems to make a tremendous difference. I yield.
Okay, well, I'm going to have a couple of questions, Annette, if you wouldn't mind. So when you say you're having Telegram meetings, what do you mean about Telegram meetings? Are you doing like a video conference with all the people, like a video live conference in Telegram?
So every week we kind of go into updates that are going on, first on our county, then second on the state, and then third on the I guess we would call it the United States, and then fourth about what's going on in the world. And so we're keeping them interested because they're getting information that they may not be able to get without going to mainstream media, which is going to freaking lie to them anyways. And because we have a very diverse group, we're getting stuff directly from Ecuador, Venezuela, Germany, Canada, all over, because we have a lot of people that have, green carded come into the county. We're lucky that way. So we offer that, plus we give them updates of what Anna has said, or updates what you ladies have shared, things of that nature. And so it keeps them coming and it keeps them very interested. And so that is on Telegram. They are able to ask questions. There is a chat part. Of course, we do the bibbins and everything. So it's like a virtual meeting, because not everybody can drive. We have a very large county, and so they can't all drive.
Okay, thank you. And then my next question is, when you say you have a brick and mortar that's been donated, could you explain how does that work for you? Is it office space, and what does that look like, and how do you run it?
So it is, I happen to be one fourth of the uh, company. It's actually a humanitarian group that does tiny homes for at cost for anybody that is in a situation. It started out as humanitarian for people that were homeless, but the office wasn't very busy, and so they had allowed us to have move in our computers and have people come, and it benefits the whole system too, because you have these people that just come because they saw these little tiny homes out there, and so they come in and ask questions, and believe it or not, like 9 out of 10 leave with a flyer or information, or they're asking information. That to us has been pretty extraordinary, actually. So it is not costing us anything. And that is so beautiful, because we obviously can't afford the 2,000 a month to have that to be able to offer people.
But do you have people in there all throughout the day? And is there a recording secretary in there to record paperwork?
Our recording secretary is very close at hand, and she's beautiful about coming. She was here today. There's usually 3 or 4 volunteers, and obviously they're not getting paid, and they're just here learning about patents, or learning about or getting documents ready to send out. We've got a great bunch, just a great bunch. And so, yes, there's someone here 6 days a week that is just here waiting in case somebody has a question or wants to know stuff. And honestly, talking to the other counties, it really makes a tremendous difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think collaborating with other counties, and I know Florida is so big, but even collaborating with other states, I think is a fabulous idea. Thank you,
Thank you.
Annette. That's
Thank you.
fantastic for you guys. Kimberly's got a question. Go ahead, Kimberly.
Actually, it wasn't a question. It was you had asked a question earlier about how we are doing some things, and I was just going to offer that on Michigan, we are working with a program on called Freedom Guides, and basically what this is it was created to be a bit of an interface to help the recording secretaries. We don't have that many on Michigan at the moment, so it was a way to try to alleviate recording secretaries from being the ones burdened with all of the questions. And I don't really mean burdened by newcomers coming on land and soil, but there's a lot of questions that happen that way that we realized that we could potentially fill a gap. And so we created a Freedom Guide program where we have men and women who volunteer to do this. And we are the ones that when men and women contact the assembly, they get assigned a Freedom Guide, and then we make contact with that man or woman and then start to help them with whatever their needs are. And so we've identified different channels that we see that are set up that men and women come in and seem to take. And we have had a wonderful gentleman on Michigan who is very good with computer stuff. So to your question of are we able to track conversions, he actually does have a program. We call it our Kanban. I'm not sure how it got that name. Maybe it's a popular thing in business. I'm not sure. But it was created to help us to be able to track men and women that were coming in and asking to have contact with someone to have help. And then to be able to track where they are in their processes, coming basically, are they doing the 1779s? Are they doing 928s? Or have they done their letters? And could sort of help track all the way through to make sure that they get as papered up as they would like to be, and help them with their LROs and their global family accounts and so forth. So to emphasize the point on that, I cannot tell you how they do the conversions, but somehow they do have that programmed into the software program with the Kanban to be able to actually get the conversion rate of how we're doing with this. I do believe that that was a feature that we've been working out the kinks for several months on this, and we had to kind of abandon something and then try again. And so we're just starting to, I think, get into some of the flow of that. I would have to refer you over to a combination of the team that is actually doing that work. And that would be our state coordinator. It would be our IT chair, and it would be our vetting chair is the man that actually helped to put that program together. So the combination of those three are a wampin team, and we're very proud and glad to have them being able to offer so much to us. But those are the ones that may be able to help answer your conversion question. And does it already exist? Do we have to reinvent the wheel? No, and I'm quite sure that they would be willing to help and share. So it's really a nice thing, as you say, to kind of be able to track that, not lose track of where men and women are in their process. And, God forbid we ever had to move, from one man or woman being in charge of that, it picks up and it can convert and keep a continuity of government really, really well. So that was one of the reasons that we wanted to make sure we had a good preservation of record on, how to make sure we can escort these men and women back onto land and soil. So that's what I just wanted to offer to your question. So I thank you for the time and I yield.
Thank you, Kimberly. You could tell Amy and Richard, and I'm guessing it's Rick, that I'll be questioning them when I see them tomorrow. But because I'm really interested in learning what the conversion rate is when we're doing outreach. I think it would help us with our outreach efforts. And I'm also wondering if there's anybody on the call tonight who does outreach, but actually does status corrections at their outreach, where they bring their recording secretary and all their instruments and do recordings on site. Anybody do that? I know that we did it a few times. Gwen, go ahead.
Hi, Gwen on Canada. So we're just starting to do that kind of outreach right now. Primarily because we're so large on Terra Canada, we've been relying on a system where if individuals email us, they get an auto response that leads them to our webpage and also to Telegram. But just recently, matter of fact, Monday night, I actually went out to a group and we did a paper up type session specifically. And of course, I'm International Notarial Witness Recording Secretary as well, because you have to wear all these hats, right? And so I just helped them fill out their paperwork, answered their questions, and by the end of the evening, we had 6 people with their paperwork done, and that was just what we call the basic, which is your equivalent, your basic, your 1779. And then we'll go forward because we encourage everyone to do the 928 process, just so that we are covered over, and with just establishing our assembly. That way we know everybody has their full body armor on, and whatever processes we need to move forward with, we're pretty much covered. Now we do a manual type of intake because we've decided we want people to upload their paperwork onto our website, and we put it into a private area. But that way we can actually count who's doing what as far as documents are concerned, who's coming on with, we used to have what was called the G string, which is just a basic declaration. And then it evolved into the basic package, which gives us a fee schedule, and you're getting on the land and soil, but you're not participating on the assembly yet. And then the 928 allows you to be in the assembly in various positions. So we are tracking that manually. We have a chart. When the documents get uploaded to the website, our IT guy, he takes good care in looking at those documents to make sure they're right, because we realized Global Family isn't checking contents of documents. So we want to know it's done right. And we also want to help people to do it right so they can be the teachers. And that's sort of been our building process, because as you come on, we're teaching you so you can teach others. And so far, so good. So I yield.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Gwen. And then I also have Christina on Colorado, who put into the chat a presentation feedback. It looks like a QR code. Christina, do you want to elaborate and explain a little bit on this?
Hi, this is Christina.
Hi,
Still
Chris.
on Herfinale County. So after watching one of the replays on one of these outreach meetings, Tammy, you suggested a survey monkey to help keep track of stuff like that. I'm not very familiar with survey monkey. I tried it, but it wasn't I wasn't willing to learn something new at the moment. So I used my Microsoft Forms to make a presentation, and I basically used some of the suggestions you used, which is asking people that come to our monthly presentation meeting, asking them different sorts of questions, such as, how did you hear about the assembly? How did you hear about this specific presentation meeting? Let's see. And other questions like, did the meeting meet your expectations? And if no, how can we improve? Would you recommend to someone else? And if you do know anyone else, off the top of your head, if you have their email, please share. We can send them an invite. It's fairly new, this presentation feedback form, but I put it into chat so that everybody could go check it out if they want to. Just to have, yeah. Yeah, so thank you for that. Also, I was thinking about making a paper copy of the same thing, because in other groups in the Colorado Assembly, like the events subcommittee, they are reaching out to people, and it would be nice to find out where people hear from us. So yeah, I think I yield.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And so Christina put a QR code. So you have both a QR code and a link, right? For the form. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so yeah, I know for us, I'll check it out. And I like that. I like that you offer a feedback form after you give your presentation. Anybody have anything else that they'd like to share as far as, you know, tracking conversion or any success that they have, a process that they have with doing outreach? Outreach and education really go hand in hand. So, you know, anything that you want to share. Kalina, go ahead, Kalina.
Hi, peace and grace. Thanks, Christina. That was great. We're trying to really get in synergy. Events, marketing, promotions, and productions is really trying to sync up with Christina, who is kind of spearheading our outreach program. So interesting is we're trying to have weekly meetings. We are having weekly meetings on El Paso County Assembly. And we put out flyers, and Tim Hageman, he's on too, and he's our wonderful art director. So both Christina and I give him ideas, and he kind of comes up with the finished products. But we had an interesting, we have monthly programs where it's potluck and the whole state comes together. And then now we're having weekly on El Paso County. So here's how we're tracking. We put out the promotion. So one person in Pueblo West was flying an American peace flag. Their neighbor came by, drove by, downloaded our flyer and actually gave it to this unknown couple to come to our El Paso County. So they came very interested, and we hope to open up El Paso County with their tracking. So now we're trying to work with outreach in calling people and having a personal contact with them to come on back. So we're now promoting in the neighborhood. So we went to Senator Exum's town hall meeting and talked there, and we got one new person to come to El Paso County, and he's coming back to the Friday meetings. So we're having good success in beginning to outreach and move forward. And then also I brought up Louisa's plan for the Resurgence project. So I think we have 3 or 4 from Colorado that are on this particular meeting here, so we can kind of come together and get synced up so we can move forward. But it's really a personal touch. So we're having a lot of success in our monthly meetings. And then we have a sign-in sheet, and then me and somebody else usually follows up and tries to call people that have fallen through the tracks. And then Tim, who's our art director, he also puts out to 300 people that kind of not actively involved, but we've been having 18, 20 people who are not actively involved now coming regularly to meetings. So it's really the monthly kind of function like Annette was doing on her county. So I yield.
Kalina, I have a specific question to ask you. When you're doing your outreach, how do you structure your outreach? Do you have a PowerPoint presentation that you give? Are you just standing up there and talking about the fraud? How are you structuring your outreach?
Well, we're kind of those of us, so for example, on one of the meetings that was in December, there were 8 of us there, and the majority of people who were there were brand new. So we just sat down at the table, and I have educational materials that I bring in an accordion folder. And then we hope to get that synced up. We also have a brochure that Tim had made, and we'll post that to the, what is it, the ICE?
Ice
Anyway,
Drive.
yes, that's it.
Yeah, if
We'll get
you
that posted. And then we also have also developed business cards that we will begin to hand out. And then tonight we were specifically looking at what Louise has planned, like the postcards and everything. So we aim to develop it. But to me, it's really an educational piece and talking directly to people and making that contact, really just, person to person, soul to soul, and I think that that's kind of the best way. And then educating them. And once they're educated, we've just had like 5 people sign up, paper up. Yep.
That's great. And my last question, and then I'm going to let Luis go, but so when you're doing these outreach events, how are you advertising, and are you tracking where the people are coming from? And when they paper up, how long are they usually taking to, convert?
Some of them convert right away. I worked with one couple that Dr. Red Elk and her husband Charles. That took me almost a year to just educate, because everybody has their own experiences, and sovereignty means many things to many people, especially if you're native. And so yeah, just kind of really just giving education all the time whenever I would meet them, and just an encouragement. But potluck also helps, and good cooks, and kind of puts people at ease first. And then we go in and we usually have an agenda, and just try to meet people where they're at. And then they ask questions, and then we try to answer them and give them referrals. And people, call back. And to me, it's that personal touch that's making it. Yeah. So we have some really great things that are planned, and we probably will be ready for an interview with you, not this Friday, but next Friday, if that works for you.
Oh, I'm scheduling now for next month.
Okay, all right. We can set that up, and then would a Friday evening be a good time for you?
Yeah, I'd have to look at my schedule, but send me an email and we could work out the details. I'm
Okay.
excited to get Colorado on the schedule.
Whoop whoop. Okay. Thanks. We're excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Kalina. Okay, go ahead, Luis.
You mentioned, I believe I heard you say you went to a senators meeting. Is that what you said?
You're asking Kalina?
Lena, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Like,
ma'am.
how did that happen? And what did you say at a senators meeting?
Well, actually, it was Senator Tony Exum, who I happen to know from church, and he's a righteous man. So I knew at one time, way back in 2015, before I was aware of the assembly and all that kind of stuff, before it came into existence, I worked on the African American Initiative for Colorado Democrats. And so I helped a little bit in his campaign. So I call him Mr. Tony. He calls me Miss Kalena. So we have a personal type familiarity with each other. So I did approach him with I had asked him before to change at a former town hall meeting in Black History Month. I asked him to please consider changing our Colorado seal, which has the New World Order. It's got the triangle. It's got a Roman fasci on it. It's got all these things. So I gave him the history. So I actually stood up in the middle of the meeting, and I had three people with me, and just really talked about freedom, talked about the American State Nationals and being free, and then had my marketing and promotions, and just kind of went around. And a gentleman from Morehouse College who's running for Senator Lamborn's position. He's attending regularly at our Friday night meetings on El Paso County. So
Excellent, Kalina. You all doing it over there.
we trying to roll in your shoes there, Louise. Trying to roll.
Now, all these last three people, I think, who's telling their experiences was talking about what they're doing on their counties.
Yes.
I think it's important. I think it's important for us to get to the counties. We're focusing a lot on our states because that's how, that's our path in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to get down to those counties where those people are. And I think that you all are an example of what I'm trying to get at, and get that message, get to the county tours, getting into people's faces. That's where actually the action is happening, and where the decisions are made on the county, so the people's lives can change and they can see it changing.
Well, I think you posed some really great questions, Louise. Like, I brought it to our General Assembly last night. You asked questions like, which county has the most American State Nationals on it? Who's got sheriffs already on your counties? There's things like that. So what I did too was I went in and I researched what was available, like home and garden shows that drew really big people to specific areas, and trying to I was looking at your plan and saying, okay, Lord, what do you want done with this? And then specifically looking at the capital, what was around the Capitol, because we're within, like, some of us within like an hour and 10 minutes of the Capitol. Okay, and we have El Paso County has the largest amount of people signed up. 75 are in our county. So, but not everybody's active. So how do we get people to become active again and re-engage them? To me, it's a fellowship. It's pointing out, crimes against humanity. And I love your list, your all-inclusive list. Like, what do you want to take care of? What's really bothering you on the county? Like, I'm really extremely concerned about all the contrails that are in our sky right now and polluting our land and our soil and our water and all that kind of stuff. So how can we take care of it? So you've posed a lot of questions, and to me, when a county or a group of people, even a small group of people, decide to define what it is that you've put in front of us, it kind of makes a roadmap, and then you just kind of think tank it and have like a creative think tank. And how do we want to move? And so one of the things we are going to have, I think our launch is going to begin with May 18th. It's called I'm an American Day. So we will be starting in Denver. We will be on the steps in Denver, and then on the court steps at the Capitol building in Denver, but then also at City Hall in Colorado Springs. So that's what I'm proposing and kind of working on right now. And I still have to get you that song list. I haven't forgot you. I'm just trying to get it in
Yeah, you
digital
gotta call
form.
me. We gotta talk. No,
Okay. All right. All right. Blessings to everybody. I yield.
Thank you.
Helena, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind, I have a question. So when you are planning this I'm an American Day, and you're planning to go to the state capitol and the courthouse, what are you planning to do there? And yeah, what are you planning to do there, and where will you go from there?
So, what I'm envisioning and kind of what I told people last night in General Assembly is we have a lot of the civil peace flags. That's first and foremost. Tim and I have also developed T-shirts. So he has a Etsy called Independence Street that people can order with any assembly can order our T-shirts. So those of us who plan to be there plan to have our flags, our T-shirts being on one accord, and then also some signs that I'm thinking of, like a banner. And then when I was at Senator Exum's town hall meeting, one of the people, a sheriff of El Paso County, Bruce, he ended up talking to a Channel 5 news program gentleman. And so he will give us a warm feed into getting some film coverage, hopefully news coverage. If we aren't able to get the news coverage, we will be taking a photo, which will be submitted with a press release along with it. So aiming to do that, but just it takes time to develop it. And then according to Louisa's plan, she said, go out about from your capital about an hour and a half out. What towns, who do you want to affect? So it's based on that. But then we also have Christina, her and her husband on Huerfano, which is down south, kind of more in the rural area. So we plan on kind of going across and to the left to the western slope. They have a Tanner gun show, which we don't plan to get a table, but we plan to erect our flag, kind of what Michelle Ford does on her Sunday afternoon potlucks and public meetings. They have a flag that they erect, and then everybody's kind of drawn to there, and then they have boards and marketing pieces to go along with it. So that's the plan. We also have our second notice for, you know how Anna put out the first notice about the sheriffs and the land law. We, in Christopher Hess is our PKTF liaison. So he was going through what he went through. So I have yet to swing back. I was calling him when he was going through Utah on his way to California. And then after it all happened, I was talking to him when he was coming from California and trying to meet his wife in New Mexico. So I'm trying to integrate the PKTF on our sheriff's meeting and then have some of our notice went out. Our first notice went out and we tracked it lawfully. So now it's all the things that we want the sheriffs to read are going to be posted onto our public website, the Colorado Assembly.org. And with that, they've been notified, they will be notified within 2 weeks of all that they're going to do, plus what they're required to know, and then plus some of our native tribes, which are sovereign. So we're getting with one of the people that I brought, who's been one of the biggest mentors for me, is Dr. Kaweah Red Elk. So we're going to the Ute Nations, the North and the South Ute Nations, and the Lakota Nation and the Mountain Ute Nation. Plus, we're ceasing all this because it has to do with sheriffs, to the governor, the Secretary of State, and the Attorney General, and the Solicitor General. And so that way, in the promotion of that, our next step is on the third notice, in which they're receiving the land law, the sheriff's notice, and then the referral to our website on the public side. Then we're going to have an event on El Paso County in April. So it'll be April, May, and then June. We plan on like kind of a summer sweep with the county thing. So that's still in plans right now.
Paulina and them done jumped out the gate too. They gone.
All right now. Well, you showing the way now. You showing the way.
Call me.
I will.
Sounds-
Yes, I'll call you tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I yield.
All right, thank you, Kalina. And apparently, I'm so sorry. Roz on South Dakota said she had her hand up 3 times. I have not taken your hand down. I don't know what happened. I never saw your hand, but I'm going to go ahead and let you go now. So if you can unmute yourself, please feel free to speak. Roz on South Dakota. Oh, is she still here? Oh, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go ahead then and go on with Annette. Annette, you have your hand up now. Go ahead.
Thank you. And I did see that Roz was on there, but I don't know if she's gone. But
Did you see you have her hand up? I'm sorry.
I didn't see her hand up, but I don't get all of them on the same at the screen at the same time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I didn't see her hand up either, but go ahead.
okay, this is kind of like what Kalina was saying a few minutes ago. And my question to everyone is, we've been going whole groups of us with pamphlets that we're really pleased that our state provides for us. We've been going to de facto meetings on the counties, you know, when they decide to bring in these ordinance that just tick everybody off. And so we find the ones that are likeliest to tick off the de facto people when they go on the meetings, right? And so we attend. Of course, we say a few things, but mostly outside the building, hand out some brochures to the people. And my question is, are we putting ourselves at risk being on these de facto premises, even though I suspect that there are property, but handing these de jure pamphlets out? Is that, I hear that Kalina was doing that as well, but are we running the risk of being arrested, or is that kind of cool?
I'm not sure why you would run the risk of being arrested if you're on, are you saying if you're on county property, like a courthouse? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we go to their committee meetings where they're trying to pass crap, that the men and women have no rights to do this or do that, and they're trying to put through high density building things and all of that stuff. The stuff we're seeing is actually deplorable by so many standards, but we get the ones that have the large crowds of people wanting to fight back, that they want their rights, and it's been very good on our part that they're all like, yeah, give me one of those, right? And we get a lot of questions, but I didn't know if that's something, because we're on de facto land and we're de jure, if that's something that we shouldn't be doing.
No, so from the way I understand it, and I see Louise has her hand up too, so I'm sure she's gonna fill in too, is that those buildings are actually our buildings. And the only area where we would have issues is the 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. But any part of our state is really that's our property. It's the people's property. And as long as you are staying peaceful and you're not creating chaos or you're causing any trouble, if you're just handing out brochures and you're acting peaceably, I don't see any problem in that. Go
Okay.
ahead, Louise.
Yeah, this is a good question. That's why I was asking Kalina about going to a senator's meeting. So when you were stepping into a district assembly meeting, or in her case, town hall meeting. So we got the township meeting, we got the city hall meeting, and the county meetings, that the counties assemblies are going to be faced with asking themselves the question, are you going to be going to those meetings or not, to establish who you are? Because those are the people who's governing your little town, that on par with you, your employees. I've heard on one of these calls that going into the building, like a court building, could get you in trouble if you don't follow their rules. But if you stayed outside, that's considered public. So you shouldn't get in any trouble. And what I was listening to was somebody had a recording, was videotaping, and the cop was saying, you can't videotape here. They said, this is public. I can videotape here. I'm not inside the building. So I've heard that. I'm not sure. I know the buildings belong to us, but we know who we're dealing with. So you just have to be careful of what you can get away with. Who do you know? Are you going to be able to do what it is you know is right to do without getting that pushback? And this is one of other topic that we're talking about in the directorate's meeting is security. I've said from the beginning, it's a dangerous thing that we're doing, to be out to doing county tours and being out there in the public saying the things that we're saying. Now we have a face to it. You have to be willing in this fight to die for what you're fighting for. I'm just saying, and I tell people this is how serious it is, and this is how serious it can get, because you hear the stories about the other nationals who have all these issues. I told you my stories. There's threats and things. So you just have to be careful. First thing I just say, just be careful of where you are in your surroundings and who you're dealing with. If you can get that relationship going first with whoever these people are you're going to visit, and whoever these people are that's at the county, whatever, if you can get a relationship going with somebody, that would be smoother. But we still have to know that we're dealing with who we're dealing with. and they can't be trusted. I don't trust them. And I say them as a generic term, even working with my township government, my city government, and my county government. I don't trust them because they're just brainwashed to believe the things that they believe, and that's just it. They have to go through the period of time of unlearning this stuff. So they're going to be acting the way they think is right. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Thank you. We did have one incident at the recording office that we had 17 sheriffs on us within minutes, and I cooled everybody down and said, okay, we're taking this outside. They're clearly not going to record it. I don't want anybody getting in trouble, and we're not going to play into their hand. And we all went outside. In these other buildings, we just present our side. They know who we are. We're very professional. We're extremely respectful. And in fact, we present such a good case that the crowd ends up clapping and making a hoopla for us. And then, of course, the committee at the front say, hey, 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 of course, the men and women in their own county aren't allowed to have an opinion, as we both all know. So I appreciate your comments very, very much, and we'll take it into consideration on every time we go out and try to do what we do on the outside, even though we know what we know. But thank you, ladies. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Kimberly, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I can't have my camera on this evening. I've been having some technical difficulties, so I'm not trying to not be seen. I just can't get it to work, so I apologize ahead of time. I wanted to just make an offering of experience. I have just had actually 3 experiences where I have had to go up to the county. I have done recording of documents. I have a cover sheet, Annette, that I'm going to go ahead and get over to you that was successful in getting my documents published peacefully, but basically giving them the law and basically making it happen, and also being correct in their rules for recording. It was a pleasant experience. I got accomplished what I needed to get accomplished, which was 4 deeds, 3 quit claims, and 1 of my deed of reconveyance. So that was successful. The other 2 were up at the courthouse because I'm doing my chain of title work, and I had to go into the records to be able to start to work on that. And so experience was very well, you feel it on you feel it on your hair standing up, and you go in and you just basically do your thing. It wasn't that we were there to do anything other than my woman's work, and so I did make PKTF aware. We did have our radios on, and so it was something that I did go in with it knowing it was happening. My assembly also knew, and we had a decent couple days, basically getting the information that we needed. I can't say that they were overly helpful, but they weren't necessarily unhelpful. And so cost me an awful lot. So if you're going to do it, know that it's going to cost you. And so one of those days, maybe we'll get that rectified, that the people get their records for free. And so anyway, we did have to go through security, so I would recommend that if you're going to do that, travel light, just have what you need. I forgot and wore a big metal belt. Actually got told it was the most metal he'd ever seen on a belt, but it had lots of hearts on it, so at least that covered me. So anyway, yeah, so don't do stupid things like that. But yeah, they were decent. They actually gave us a recommendation when we got kicked out for lunch, so do plan on that they close for lunch, and you are going to get kicked out of the building. And so in the blizzard, off we went and had lunch on the recommendation of the guard, who is a large man, so it was a good lunch. And so you can befriend these folks, and they're there doing their job and putting bread on the table for their families. So I would just say, go in as an ordinary person and a man and woman relating to another man and woman doing their job, and just be integral in your work, and be honest with what's happening, and You know, I find that what I'm doing in all my de facto work is I'm just genuinely telling them to their face what I'm doing, just like they are for me. So I guess I would just offer just, be a real woman, be a real man, and, be in your truth, and you'll be okay. Draw down the armor of God, and go. And so I just wanted to share that, there are successes that are happening. It's certainly intimidating, but at the same time, we have every right. And so I just say go for it. And, we really aren't doing anything wrong. So, I appreciate that I'm still here, but I did have a backup plan in the case that I didn't. And I would just offer in self-governing, we have to, drive like we're in a boat, you got it coming from you from all directions. So you got to just be able to spin your head and see where you're going, and hope you got friends in tag with you. And our marshal at arms was great. He went with me, and is just a fabulous man. So really glad to have him, guarding our assembly as much as he does. So anyway, with that, just wanted to report some success. And I will be happy to share that cover letter for recording documents if that's something anyone needs. So thank you. I yield.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. If you want to send that, either put it in the chat or you could send it to me and I can attach it to the recording when I send the recording out. I have a question. Did you record your involvement or your interaction at the courthouse or the recording to get your documents recorded?
Forgive me, when you say did I record it, can you, I mean, like with a videotaping or pictures and so on? At the recording for the deeds, yes, we took some photographs. I did not go so far as to be recording, just because honestly, the cover letter strong, it made the young woman actually, having her hands kind of steering wheel like she was about to hit something, holding the paper, and not, fixated on it, looking at it, kicking back with her legs, standing up, going, I've got to go get help. And I mean, she literally ran away from the window and came back with a supervisor. And so, they recognized quite quickly that this was something they had to record. And so, again, I was very peaceful and we just went ahead with it. And so, yeah, I would say that it seemed to do the job. So we did take pictures there, but I didn't really want to be, in their face. I had scared the young lady and I didn't want to, that wasn't what I was intending. I just wanted my documents done, but now we know the power of it. So smile, be nice when you do it, and hand it over to them. So that one we did. The courthouse, they pretty much have stuff up saying, don't do this. You have to be buzzed into rooms. You have to sign in. You have to sign out. So yeah, it's a bit intimidating.
They don't want their crimes videotaped.
Well, I will tell you, they actually have a special bookcase that is entitled Chattel Mortgages. And it literally says on the big binders, they're the legal size binders bound in leather, and they go from floor to ceiling, and they literally are the entire mortgage record saying Chattel Mortgages on every binder. And it's my entire county of who's basically held hostage. And it literally says it on the binder. I mean, you couldn't be any more in your face. So I would love to have been able to have the ability to film some of it, to basically kind of show what this is. It's fascinating. I will tell you, if you have the gumption to go down and start to research your own property, a chain of title is, I think, it's intimidating, but it is something that is accomplishable. And it is really amazing. I have 2 of my 3 properties with the chain of title linked. And my gosh, the day that happens, you honestly want to fall out of yourself. It's kind of like the day you did your ASN paperwork. It's like, oh my gosh, Lincoln gave it to me. And then the other one, I'm waiting on Polk to give it to me. I've got the land patent, certified in my hand. And, I'm just waiting for that last couple links to hit. And, once you do it, I mean, my gosh. And so it's accomplishable. And I would encourage everybody, don't think that these things are not going to be coming at us and coming fast. I'm under pretty big attack from my county right now. My sheriff will not see me. I am really, praying a lot. So I would ask if anyone would offer me any support in that from any etheric levels, that my way be cleared and that this man turn his heart, and that I can help my people on my land. I do hold evidence that is going to be able to pretty much show them if they're willing to look. So now we find out. Are they good guys or are they bad guys? So anyway, I will keep you all up to date, and I thank you for your support and your prayers. I wanted to just share what was going on, and there are good things happening. So thank you.
Thank you for that update, Kimberly. Appreciate that. Luis, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know we're winding it here down, Tammy. Tammy, we got to get out of here. I'm gonna say this last thing. Kimberly just hit on something. I don't want nobody to overlook what she said. She did in her wisdom. She said she had her radio on and she had a backup. So back to that question you all were asking, should I go into this building where these de facto is? Have your radio on and have a backup for your own security, because this is dangerous. And all assemblies are supposed to get their radios. We got the PKTF got the radios and everything. And your assembly may have your own set of radios or network, but that's part of the project too. We haven't gotten to talk about that part yet, but the directorate has started talking about how the security is going to have to be set up as the assemblies go out into these counties and get their boots on the ground. You're gonna have to think about that too. I yield.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare you, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's more of a security purpose, and better safe than sorry, because right now as it stands, and you all said this, is that we don't know who we're dealing with. We don't know if we're dealing with a bad guy or if we're dealing with good guys. We go in there with the hopes that, and the expectations is that we're dealing with good guys, but in the event that we are dealing with bad guys, we have to be prepared. Go ahead, Kimberly, go ahead.
Thank you. I did actually want to follow up on that with the radios, because I have to say, I don't know that I would have done this had I not had that, had I not had Boyd, on the line, had I not had Bobby on the line, had I not had many of my assembly members on the line. I can tell you that when we went to record, I did get in, we parked, and we were waiting for another man that was showing up as a witness. And I went to look at my phone and my phone was blocked. So I basically radioed out and said, hey, I'm just letting you know my phone is blocked. And as soon as I went ahead and radioed out, I'm sure they caught that signal and my phone got opened back up again. So I will tell you there's power in this. And I would tell you that it is a backup system, and it's maybe not going to be the build out that, we're used to with the, conventional 911 systems. But I have people that will hear me if I call out, and that to me is so comforting. I know they may be miles away, but they can also scurry on my behalf and try to help. And so I appreciate that very, very much. And the more people that participate in this, we become the next man in the line or the next woman in the line that might be the one that hears that call. And so, you never know when you're going to be that last one standing. And so I just appreciate everybody who's reached out to do this. And, this is going to be the most amazing thing to be able to be part of building out our own American system and getting off of theirs. So I would really encourage you all. This is something that, we can start to build out. These radios are coming on and they're available now. And so it certainly doesn't have to be these, but I would recommend these because it brings us all into our own network. And so again, I just offer it is a backup of an alternate means of communication. And it really has helped and served me. So that's what I wanted to offer. They can block your phones on there. So just know that going in, you do want to have a backup and you do want to let people know where you're going. So if there is a problem, somebody can at least try to work to your benefit. So thank you. I yield.
Thanks, Kimberly. All right, guys, we're at 9:33. I think we're going to go ahead and end the call. This was a great conversation, and I think we've made some headway. We'll try to hit Anna up tomorrow night with some questions. And I have on our agenda that we are going to reconvene this meeting next month. Is going to be Wednesday, April 9th. Okay, so you guys mark your calendars. All right, everybody have a good night. And we'll see you next month. And I'm sure I'll see you on the Thursday coordinator training calls or somewhere else. All right.
Tammy,
Thank you, Tim.
would I be able to share the Colorado's new brochure with you real quickly? I believe Kalina just called me in. we were wondering, or we thought it'd be a good idea to put on the ice drive maybe?
Yes, it actually, Christina, if you could send it to me in an email, because that's how I'll be able to upload it for you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that
Yes,
would be great. Thank you so much.
absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Christina.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you
Thank you
next
so
next
much.
Good night, you all.
Good night, all.
time.
You.
Prayers and blessings and love.
Thank you,
Appreciate y'all. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for all the knowledge.
Sorry, Tammy, I missed the what date that next meeting was going to be.
It's April 9th, Wednesday,
April 9th.
April 9th.
Beautiful.
Yes,
All right.
and
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. And Darren, I'm going to give you an email so we can kind of get more details for the podcast.
Sounds good. No worries at all.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tammy.
All right.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Louise.
Good night,
Very-
everybody. Good night, Louise. Thank you so much.
Good night,
Tammy.
Louise and Tammy. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate
you.
you. Yeah.
Thank you,
Peace and
Selena.
love.